Gate Market Center, which is a brand new one, which is all on the peninsula. Most of my business comes from door knocking. I've closed 14.5 million.
My name is Christine Tapworth, and you can call me Chris too. And I work in the Stockton Market Center, but I work the entire Central Valley, all the way from Merced up to Elbrook, pretty much. Sacramento, I guess. And then to Tracy, and I'm even working a little bit in the Bay Area now. So I'm kind of spread out all over the place. I've been in the business for 35 years this month. And and I started when I was 2. And thank you, Peter. And I work short sales a lot, but I've of course done everything in the world since I started in the business. And
my name is Dana Ramsey. I'm a real estate broker, and I also own. So last year I did 120 sites myself personally, and then my team did more. Mostly REOs, although short sales are now becoming a bigger part of our business. We have a team environment. I met Maureen about 3 years ago, and she's been amazing.
So Maureen changed your life. It's kind of what we talked about at lunch today.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, so I'm not a KW agent and have never been, but KW has changed our business. When I first met Maureen, we had 75 virtual assistants working for our company, and as of the end of last month, we have 327. And most of that comes from the fact that she introduced me to Gary Keller, and Gary did like an expose on our company in 2009. And I mean, KW represents a third of our client base, so KW is crazy. As culture-wise, I mean, every other brokerage, culture-wise, just doesn't believe in sharing and building each other's business. And it's a wild thing. Like if you were to go to any other brokerage and say, let's get together as a region and then let's share ideas, everybody would be like, oh, I don't want to say that. I don't want to tell them how I door knock, and I'm not going to. But KW is different, and that's what I love about it, and that's why I really enjoy these kind of group settings. But
You sound like a Keller Williams agent.
I know.
Let's see what Rob has to say.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob Wolf of the Roseville Market Center, and thank you very much. And I am probably the smallest agent up here. I think I run about a $10 to $15 million a year business. I have a small team, 3 people, and we really focus on 80% of our business is short sales. And I really have a good work-life balance. I work 45 hours a week. I don't work a lot of nights and weekends. And prior to coming over to Keller Williams, I'd always been a 6-figure agent, but my business literally had doubled from moving over to Keller Williams through using kind of the rent book tactics.
We're talking in play big here. We're talking about play to win and playing not to lose. We're talking about the strategy of what does it take for an entrepreneur to play big. You're all entrepreneurs. We are all entrepreneurs. So we're focused today on listings. We're focused today on being that dominant player in that market. What I'd like to have you do is first talk to and tell everybody here, how do you see the market, your market, what you're dealing with, and just quickly, what does it look like? Lots of inventory, not a lot of inventory? What are you doing?
Market looks great. It's the 2.4 month supply of inventory. It's a great time to have listings. I only do listings, and 90% of what I do is listings, and 10% is referred in buyers that are people that have been previous clients or in my database. Everything else goes to my buyer's agent, and so we've done a lot of marketing tactics to sell a third of the listings that we put on.
Can I stop you right there? Did you hear the statistics that he just gave you? What did he just tell you? All right, how much volume does he do in a year? 10 to 15 million, and what percentage is listings?
90%.
90%. So if anybody was sitting there saying, I can't do just 36 listings in a year. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna break it down when I start hearing gems, all right?
So we're really focused on selling our own listings. I think that's a big focus that we put on now. And that's probably just happened over the last 6 months because it's a great time to have your inventory and sell your inventory. And so that's been a big focus of ours. And going after the short sales. And then, I call them channel accounts. Anyone that can send you, 4 pieces of business or more per year. All the people that you work with that, you have clients that work at companies. The companies have HR, relocation departments, people that need to move, sell, move around. And so, my number one pillar is business, followed by database. And so between business and database, it accounts for over 80% of my business. And so, my big thing, and I don't do a lot of internet stuff. I'm just not a web guy. The reason why is I have an 8-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. and I'm gonna be beat every time that, somebody calls at 7 o'clock at night, I'm just not gonna take the phone call. And so I, purposely choose to run a business where when your CPA refers you somebody, they call you at 4:30 and, are apologetic, they hope they're not catching you after close of business, and they're perfectly happy to get a call back the next day, and that's what, I really focus on.
So Rob, if I was coaching you and I heard you make that statement and tell me what you're not doing, I would ask you, how come you haven't leveraged yourself to do that? But we'll just leave that question in the air, all right? And let's go to Chris.
So, first of all, our market, like most of them, is pretty much on fire right now, especially when it comes to single-family homes. I ran the numbers this morning before I drove up here, and we have 0.92 months of inventory on single-family homes. Condos are like 1.4, so it's extremely low inventory. Almost everything's getting multiple offers. We had talked about yesterday, I put a property in the market that absolutely would not comp for more than 1.1. The sellers would have loved to have had more. I said, I can't support this. I cannot advise you to list it for more than 1.1. We listed at 1.1. We get 8 offers on the property. An all cash offer, no contingency for $250,000 comes in. We actually had one
250 over the asking.
250 over the asking, and we actually had one 275 over finance, no contingencies. And my seller said, "We'll take the cash." So and numbers like that are crazy too. I mean, the appraisers are taking into consideration the multiple offers there. So we're not really having a problem with it.
And how do they take that into consideration? Because we've had some conversation about the appraisal. Are you sharing with them the other offers and what the other offers are coming in at?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one of the ones that I had another off-market sale that was across the street from the one that I sold for 1.35. The appraiser came out and did the appraisal, and I met her there, and I said, I know this is going to be tough to comp. Here's all the comps. Here's all the data on everything on the house, all the things that are sold around there. I know it doesn't really support it, but I've got this one that we're accepting offers on 2 days from now. If you will hold that appraisal, as soon as the offers come in, I will call you and fax you the offers if you want. And she did, and we ended up having no problem with the appraisal.
Fantastic. Okay, so we got off a little bit. I want you to talk, before we go to Daniel, I want you to talk about what are you doing to get listings in this market?
So I kind of look at it like a line you do across there, like what never changes, and that's my activities. I'm a big door knocker. For those of you who saw, who have ever seen Rick G, 7 years ago when I got in the business, Rick said, find a neighborhood and door knock, and that's just what I do.
So you've been doing it for 7 years.
Doing it for 7 years.
Okay. Somebody asked the question earlier, said if you're doing a geographic farm, because door knocking is how to generate a geographic farm. If you're doing a geographic farm, how long does it take to start generating business? You were door knocking. How long did it take you to get your first deal?
Well, I'm a slow learner, but the first deal I did took a year. I door knocked every 3 weeks, just like Rick said. Every 3 weeks I knocked on this 500 door farm. It took me a year before I got my first listing. Now, if I had it to do all over again, I would have used less corny marketing material, because I had things like me standing on the roof of a house, those stupid scripts like, I'm a realtor who's outstanding in this field or something, and it just did not work very well. So I wouldn't have done that. So I could have.
That's a big point. That's a big point, because that marketing was all about you, wasn't it?
It was all about me. When I changed to not necessarily all about the seller, but all about the market, that's when the business started coming in.
Oh, so in other words, when you started to become an MVP and you were sharing information about the market so that they were, imagine that.
So yeah. And don't ever give up on door knocking, because the first listing I ever got, this guy, I knocked on his door, and he opened the door, I was like, what do you want? And I basically gave my script. He's like, I don't want any of your crap, stop leaving your crap on my door, I'm never selling, slams the door. Like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks later, he called me, he said, remember when I told you I was never going to sell? And my son just moved to Phoenix, and unfortunately I didn't know you. My son just moved to Phoenix, and I want to be with my grandkids, so I want you to list my house. So it works.
All right. So, let's do ladies first. You okay with that, Dan?
Yeah.
All right, Christine. So, tell us what your market looks like, okay, and what are you doing to get listings?
Okay, my market is, very similar to all the rest of your markets, because we all live pretty much on top of each other, right? So, but my my market, the thing that I find very interesting about all the national news and all of our news is, yes, it's a seller's market. Yes, I have no inventory. Yes, we have multiple offers on every single transaction, but the sellers aren't making any money. So while it's a seller's market, it's not a seller's market because virtually 80% of them still are upside down. So it's just really, really interesting to me. But you know, they've come to accept that, and they're very happy that they're getting out from under hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, and that is their equity. You know, that's where they get to get away. So the way that I market myself is I have a radio show that brings me a lot of business. I'm known as the real estate doctor in my community, and that has done a lot for me. We've been doing that for quite a while now. The other thing is just normal stuff. We do, we call expireds every day. Current clients and past client referrals are huge. Current client referrals are probably account for, I would say, 25% of my business. People who I'm already working with, their brother, their sister, their aunt, their uncle, their boss are all in trouble, and they all come to me. And so that really brings a lot of people to me that way. And then just being known in the community, I do a lot of community service through stopping foreclosure seminars and conference calls and, you know, things that we all do. But those things are the things that are working best for me right now.
Awesome. Daniel, you know questions?
Yeah, I hope so. So right now in Sacramento, I just looked at numbers too, just like Chris over there. 37% of Sacramento last month was purchased cash by investors. And so that's a huge percentage of the market. I mean, when you really factor in how many people lied about the fact that it was an investment purchase, like they bought with a cousin or an aunt or something like that, I would say the market's probably more like 40%. So in our office, we very much focus on investors, and that's kind of always been our niche. And I personally own a bunch of real estate, and that's kind of where we are, right? And through those other systems, like, I mean, the database is number one. Who you have and who you've worked with in the past. We have an agent in my office. We do a power hour once a week where we make everybody call previous clients in the last 2 years. And he was bitching about it, and I'm like, you've got to do it, you've got to, and sorry for the word. But anyways, absolutely, in the first 30 minutes, he's like, you know, I haven't talked to these people in a year, almost a year and a half. And I said, I know, that's why I'm wanting you to call. So he calls and he puts 2 escrows together one night. I swear, we had inventory, it wasn't selling, and this isn't something that happened last year, this happened like 2 months ago. So just simply going through your database is the biggest deal, and getting in touch with those people that you've sold houses to or you know. I know Tom Ferry, and I'm just saying it because we used to use him, but he has this sphere of influence, and wildly enough, if you write down everybody you know, you'll be able to make calls. And so getting back to that old time, like just picking up the phone, spending 3 to 4 hours every single day contacting people, like that's our number one. Number 2 is probably...
Can I stop you just a second? You know, I'm going to talk to brand new real estate agents out here. And when he says, write down everybody you know, sometimes we tend to think about how well do I know them. I want to switch that around and say, I want you to write down everybody who knows who you are. If they've ever met you, if they ever know your name, if they're in your organization, your database is everybody that knows who you are, not people that you know well. Okay?
And better yet, the people that you have a phone number for.
There you go.
There you go. If they don't know you, just say, hey, I'm Daniel, we met here. I don't know if you remember, but this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. So the other, she's talking about FSBOs and expires. I love these because our script is pretty similar to, I don't know if this is out or if anybody knows this, but we don't call them FSBOs we say privately available or recently available. And so we're not calling somebody and say, hey, I noticed you're a FSBO. Huh? What are you talking about? We actually call saying, hey, we were wondering if you're still accepting offers. We noticed that your property is privately available. And that means they just aren't on the MLS or they're doing a for sale by owner or whatever. So scripts.
And words are powerful. So will you say that again so everybody can write that down?
Yeah.
Are you still accepting offers?
we noticed that your property is privately available. We were wondering if you're still accepting offers and if you'd have time for us to come over and see your property. That line, I mean, you're not saying, hi, I noticed that your property was for sale and it's a FSBO and I was wondering if I could have a listing. That's crap, right?
Right.
So the point is,
So go to the other one, recently available. What do you say to the recently availables, which we call
expired. So we
right.
noticed that your property is recently available. I have a database of buyers who are actively looking. In fact, I can't get homes for these 8 people who need a home in this particular zip code. Do you have time to meet either Tuesday or Wednesday night? I'd like to come by and actually see your property. That is the easiest line, and they think you're bringing value, right? And I do. We have a system called Boomtown, which is our buyer side of the business, which, again, I agree with him, have listings, then work on the buyers, be a team. But, you know, we bring and we show, we have 10,000 people in our database that are currently looking for homes in the Sacramento market. So you have to kind of bring that information to them and let them see your numbers. I tell them, hey, I'm in the top 30. There's 6,000 real estate agents in Sacramento. I'm like 28 or something like that. So you have to bring information. You have to be their information source.
So we've got 4 people sitting in front of you that are doing a phenomenal amount of business. And they're doing the business in different ways, which that makes this panel even more powerful. So what questions would you have that they haven't answered for you yet? Well, we're talking about lead generation and creating more listings. What questions do you have around that?
Hi, my question is for Rob. When you, do you double end most of your listings? Is that what you mean by you sell them yourself?
A third of them, yeah. I mean, my buyer's agent does, right? So the 2 things that I do that's a pretty simple strategy is when I go out and meet with the client, I take pictures that first day. A lot of the market that we have is short sales, and so then once you have a short sale and you have pictures, I have a database. I have 1,000 people in my email database, 400 people in my mail database, and the top 50 people that are, my love club that really love me and, would tell people about me. So what I do is the day that I go out there, I use 2 different things. I do call capture from the bottom of the sign. So I have one of those sign writers that says, for more information about this property, call this phone number and get a text. And then as those text messages come in with the buyer's name, phone number, what property they're calling on, my buyer specialist or myself, if she's off, the 2 days that she's off, we call them up right away. And so that's between the sign and then between marketing the property preliminarily to our database. Those are the 2 areas that I think I really get, in this market. It hasn't been like that in the past, but now because inventories are low, a third of them, you can sell your own listings that way.
So why not just a flyer at the house like everybody else?
Because people take flyers, they never make the phone call, right? Whereas if it's the call capture, if they call or text into the phone number, you have their information. I learned that because I never want to get that phone call. I try and leverage the time capacity. I don't want to get that phone call because there are more flyers in my box. And then when the house isn't selling, they're thinking it's because there aren't flyers in the box. And so if you use the call capture system, it captures who called in, and then you could be assertive and follow up with them as opposed to a big flyer.
On that call capture, do you notice that it increased the number of signed calls per listing just to have the 24-hour recorded message call capture writer?
Yeah, the writer.
Yeah. Did it increase your number of signed calls per listing?
Yes.
Or have you just always used it and you don't know?
You don't know because you don't know.
There's no way to know otherwise.
Right. What I mean, yeah, unless you have in other words, are people more likely to call the call capture than
They'll
the
call
number
the
on
call capture before they'll call the agent.
than the panel number, right?
It's less intrusive, and they can get the information they're looking for, and so then they'll call that before they'll call the agent, because they might not want to get into a dialogue. Is the price right? Is the square footage right? They're looking for 5 bedrooms. Most of the homes in the area have 3 or 4. So, and then a big percentage of people that call in are people that have weak agents that really haven't engaged in a good conversation with their agent, and so they're just early off in the process. Just being honest, that it's people that they've already talked to an agent, and then as you go through the script and dialogue, they find out if they're really committed to that agent. The answer is no, and so then I said, well, let's get face to face and see if we can get them into a buyer or if you're on our side.